Oh, okay. Well, this is our first podcast for Battleborn Duckers, huh?
Go Battleborn Duckers.
Okay. Man, I wish it wasn't so awkward when I get on camera, man. It's hard to
I think it was so damn awkward.
Oh. Well, we're just trying this whole podcasting out because we're going to do some cool stuff this year. Did some cool stuff this morning. What did we do this morning?
We harvested some millet for the game preserve, and hopefully we'll reseed it next year and put some more millet in some bulrushes.
Yeah. You think I'm a crackhead sometimes? My beard's going in and I'm always scratching my face? Like
I know you're a crackhead. I don't think. I know.
Oh, man. So, our premise for our podcast is we take one, teach one. I was at a banquet, wildlife banquet, like 4 or 5 years ago, and I got this guy I really look up to. You know, he works for Endow. Don't judge him there because, you know, them Endow folks, some people don't like him. I think they're okay, though. If they're watching, they're okay. If they're not watching, he's talking to me. We'll say something about him. But Doug Nelson comes up and he gives this great speech, and I don't remember much of it because I'm not that bright. But Doug said, I challenge you this year to take one and teach one. And ever since then, me and Brian have both been trying to do it. Unfortunately, Brian's a unfortunate result of taking one. I took him one time, he didn't learn his lesson, he kept coming back.
Actually, you took my kid,
Oh.
and I just happened to be with him, and then you're like, hey, Brian, how stupid are you? And all of a sudden we started going hunting again. So
I don't think I asked you that mean question.
You probably would.
Yeah, you're pretty stupid. So Brian has been my hunting buddy for the foreseeable future and the foreseeable past. We started duck hunting in Overton, which if any of y'all have been out duck hunting in Overton, it's an art of patience out there. So there's a lot of young hunters and a lot of old hunters and a lot of people that don't have the best idea as to what they need to do. But that's the point of hunting. You get out there and you figure it out. But I took Brian and his kid out once, and I threw him in a blind with a bunch of little girls. They screamed the whole... What'd your boy do to those little girls?
Those little girls, they were screaming and talking and just making a bunch of racket. And Cody, my son, I think he was probably about 13 at the time, and he looked at him and he said, "Shut up, I'm trying to hunt." So he's pretty serious. He gets pretty serious about his hunting, and it's part of the thing is, as hunters and we have to be a little bit of educators, and bringing our young kids back into the hunting community is a pretty big thing. We don't have, we're not having the numbers that we used to have in the hunting environment, so we need to get these young kids up hunting and new hunters in, even no matter what their age is. I mean, if we can get more hunters going to the market, then all of a sudden we've got more access to things, we've got more products coming online, and we can actually make a better hunting environment all the way around. I don't care what you hunt, whether it's deer or... We're fortunate, I guess, and unfortunate at the same point. Ron and I live 10 minutes away from an Overton Game Preserve, and we can go hunt in 10 minutes if we wanted to. The bad part about that is we're not in the real flyways, so the hunting opportunities are pretty limited. So when we have guys that go out there and do things that aren't conducive to good hunting, we feel the effects of it probably worse than a lot of other areas, because if you chase the birds out, we don't have more birds coming behind them the next day. So it's really important that we start teaching people how to be proper hunters and do it the right way.
Remember last year we were on that lake over there and out towards Alamo, and man, it was a beautiful morning, just one of those like pink, like just picturesque mornings, and man, there were like thousands and thousands of canvasbacks and some widgeons, and man, they were just flying all around. And we had some gentlemen on a certain island. I can't disclose the name of the island. Well, we could kind of. It starts with an F and ends with a Tard Island. That's the nickname of it. And a certain group of hunters got up there, and man, they let loose on these birds at about 1,000 to 2,000 feet. And the birds said, "You know what? This is just a too hostile environment." Me and Brian watched them go up to 3,000 feet and just
kept on trucking. And once the birds are gone, the birds aren't coming back for our environment. I mean,
the food.
Being outside the flyway, we don't have the food sources. The management for our migratory birds hasn't been real great because it's not a true flyway for us. So when we get the birds in, we need to try to do what we can to keep them, which is why Ron and I went out this morning, and it was, Ron and I both belong to a group, and we're on the board of a group called Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada. And a big part of that for a long time has been providing drinkers and stuff for big game, mule deer and stuff and elk. Ron and I came into the group, and we took more of a role in the group, and we started doing a lot more duck projects because Ron and I have a passion for duck hunting. And so Ron and I, it was Ron's family and my son and a couple other people that Ron works with, and we got out and started harvesting millet today so we can try to make a better migratory bird place for these birds to lay down and spend some time. Instead of flying through and being gone in 2 days, we'd like them to stick around for a little bit. Our wildlife management group, we're starting to do a lot better. We have a native Canadian goose population that stick around. Our Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada group, we actually provided some rocket nets this year for our local wildlife management area, and they're going to start banning some ducks, and so we can kind of see what our migratory patterns are and where they're coming from, see if we can get them to stay a little bit longer. But it all comes from a passion, and the passion's created by having the opportunity. I would have never thought about duck hunting. I hunted other things, and I fished a lot, and I was outdoors all the time, but going with Ron, with my son, and then...
You're one of those California rancher boys.
Yeah. My family was in cattle ranching for my entire life. But the opportunity to go with my son and kind of see what it's all about kind of got me hooked to the bug. So I think we want to and we encourage everybody to provide that. Ron and I are big about, if guys are doing it the wrong way, we can't say anything unless we teach them to do it the right way. So a big part of that is, going out and seeking them out and saying, hey, why don't you jump in the blind with us?
You don't get mad at those boys at all, huh?
No, we get, I'm not going to lie, we get a little frustrated. Ron's probably better at it than I am. Ron has a tendency to bring anybody and everybody into the blind, sight unseen. We've had to create some new rules.
You can tell by Brian's beard, he's got some temper in him.
So we don't take people out on the boat unless they've already hunted with us out in Overton or somewhere else where we don't have to put so much resources into them. And Ron will bring people to hunt, and sometimes it can be frustrating because you gotta be nice. But at the same point, you do really realize that you're trying to.
Well, people were patient with us when we started.
They were, and we could ask the questions.
I'm sure I've been called a few wonderful.
And
names.
we did. The thing is, they talk about guys. Birds fly over and they're 600 yards up or 300 yards up, and they're not shootable birds, and guys are shooting at them. Well, it's because they think that that's what they're supposed to do, and I guarantee you, Ron and I are probably the same way when we first started.
We've had some really good experiences bringing new people out.
We have, and we've learned a lot. Ron and I, we don't.
And we like going out with people that know what they're doing too, because you always pick something new.
Exactly, and we don't hunt. Ron and I don't hunt. We're not fair weather hunters. We don't hunt and go out for 2 hours in the morning and come home. We hunt hard. And those hard hunts have come with a lot of hard lessons. We've watched birds come into our decoys and turn out and spin off and adjusted our decoys more times than we can count. I'm a little bit more laid back and I'll let things sit and marinate a little bit and want birds to get in closer. And Ron tends to want to make more adjustments, and he is one that's going to shoot the birds a little bit sooner than I will. But that's kind of what the good thing about bringing new people out is, because
Brian's a bird watcher. He likes to watch them fly away sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I do. But bringing those new guys out, it gives you a different perspective. So even a hunter that's been hunting for 10 years, but they're having issues and they can't get the birds in, they may have a technique, even if the birds aren't coming into them, they may have a technique that helps your hunt out a whole lot. So when we take one and teach one, we're also, one of the things I do with guys that I train, and I've been everything from, I was in the emergency medical services field. Ron was too. Ron was a paramedic for a while. I was a fire captain. It was our local volunteer fire department. I work in the construction industry where I do inspections and stuff now. And one of the things that I always teach my guys that I'm training is, if we learn something, we're going to catch a little bit of it. But we have to teach something. It makes us stronger because we're going to go and research. Ron and I are notorious about off-season. We're in everything we can get to learn. So when we bring those guys in and we have to teach them, when's a good time to shoot, what the patterns of the birds are. When are birds? Some of the hardest things I think duck hunters have is
Identifying.
when are the birds still working and when are the birds ready to turn away. And so it's a tough lesson to learn sometimes. And sometimes I let it go a little too long, let the birds turn away. And
Or you got to figure out why they're turning away.
Exactly. And so I think when we bring new hunters out, whether they're young hunters or whether they're, we took a guy out, what's Ron, 60 some years old?
80s, he's 70 to 80. I think.
And he came out and just having that knowledge in the blind from his other style of hunting and just having that experience. Duck hunting is one of the, I'll tell you right now, I love all forms of hunting. When people ask me what I hunt, my answer is, can I eat it? And will it eat something that I can eat? If the answer is yes to either of those, then I'll hunt it. Duck hunting, though, is a lot more social hunting than most other forms of hunting. Duck hunting, you can sit in that blind, and when you're in between flights of birds, you actually have the opportunity to kind of
chat and meet and learn about people.
shoot,
Well, that gentleman
shoot
we
the
brought
bull.
out last time, I wish we could get him on here. He was a pretty prevalent businessman in Las Vegas, and we get out there, duck hunting, it's dark. It's dark 30, you know. You want to get out early, and what I asked that fella when we got out there.
Yeah, I asked him if he had a plug in his gun, and
I said, you got a plug in your gun?
Absolutely.
Because old GW, you don't got a plug in your gun.
Old green jeans will come after you.
He'll find you. So you got a plug in your gun? He goes, I got a plug in my gun. And, you know, usually I'll take the shotgun shells. The new guy, first time out hunting, I'll take the shotgun shells, make sure I can fit enough that the game warden can't get you. You know, you put 2 in. If you only put 2 in, you're good. You know, 1 in the chamber when you get out there. But, yeah, anyways, we get out there to the blind, and we get all set up. We're sitting there in the dark, and it's right before that sun comes up, man. You know, this, God's hour. And call it God's hour because he makes all the ducks fly and tempts you. Anyways, go put the shells in his gun. I go 1, 2, 3. And I go, yeah, well, that's too many. So I had to leave Brian there, and I gave the gentleman my gun. I said, I'm gonna go get your plug. We walked back to his truck and got his plug, and Brian had an okay hunt with him that morning. That was a cool hunt. Do you remember those 2 kills that came buzzing over, and that hawk grabbed him out of the air?
And that's the thing. I think one of the things that gets people hooked on duck hunting is, there's a couple different things. Having those birds buzz you pretty close, and just watching those birds work in Overton here, we tend to get 1s and 2s. We don't get a lot of big flights.
No, we don't.
If you get 3 or 4 to come into a decoy set, that's a pretty big flight for us. So that getting those birds in that close changes a lot of people and it gets them hooked. My son, he loves to hunt, and he'll hunt anything he can. I sent him up to Idaho last year to hunt big game, and he worked on some elk and got a whitetail up there on top of his muley in Nevada. But Ron, I kept telling him about, hey, we need to go to some of these other places. You don't understand what birds flying are. And we took him out about an hour and a half north of here, in a little lake called Nesbitt, and it's early in the morning. The sun comes up, and here comes a flight of about 1,000 teals in across the top of them. And for some of you across the country, 1,000 teal isn't a big flight, but for us, he turned at Ron and I and looked and said, "Man, that's what I've been waiting for." And so for him, that was his gotcha moment, right? And so the idea is, as hunters, especially hunters on public lands, is to get people excited, get people to buy in. Hunting licenses are what helps sustain our lifestyle and what the sport we love to do. And if they're not buying duck stamps, the duck habitat's not getting improved like it should. If we're not supporting our local game organizations, so Ron and I have a ton of irons in the fire, but we try to give back to different game organizations. We're on the board to win. Ron and I are on the Friends of the NRA for our local chapter. We're both on the board there.
Members of the Bighorn Fraternity.
Members of the Bighorn Fraternity, Woods and Waters organization.
There's all sorts in Las Vegas if you want to get involved. There's all sorts of groups out there.
There's the Ducks Unlimited in Vegas. Ron and I haven't got too involved in the Ducks Unlimited.
There's Meadow Valley up in Caliente.
Meadow Valley up in Caliente. There's just a ton of stuff, and wherever you call home, there's all these organizations that are
hurting for people,
and they want to do good things. And so when we bring people out and get them into our blinds or take them out deer hunting, I know Ron and I are we got some youth tags to fill this year. We've been pretty blessed.
I remember taking your kid out for the first time hunting. Remember that?
The first time, and this kid doesn't have a lot of expression.
Everybody's a good hunting story.
And that kid, he takes a shot on. he took a shot on. We went up Thursday night, hunted Friday morning. Gets a shot on, misses.
Not a rifle.
Yeah, he's a muzzle loader, and he misses, and so he's kind of bummed. And he missed later in the afternoon and was even more bummed. And it seemed like every time the bucks were decent. They were a little bit bigger the second time he shot. And we go out Saturday morning, and first shooting light, we come across a nice little herd. Got a couple okay bucks in it, and one was turned broadside. And I'm like, Cody, go ahead and let's just take the one that's broadside. He takes a shot, misses over the back of it. The whole herd walks maybe uphill, maybe 15, 20 yards, turns and goes broadside to him again. He loads up again and takes another shot and drops that, and it was a nice buck. I mean, it was a good sized buck.
Shop, man. I think I hollered and jumped around the truck a few times.
And Ron looked at me after that and said, "I think that's the first time I've ever seen your kid smile." And so we get those. And so Ron and I mean, I'm lucky enough. Cody drew again this year.
That's what we call gotcha moments, man. That's how
exactly.
they get you. And that's how they get you to bring out new people. You bring out someone for the first time, you see that light in their eyes when they harvest their first animal or take their first shot or finally realize that being outdoors, and it's not all about the hunt, but it's kind of about the process. Like those get you to bring more people out.
And Cody's now, he's 17. It'll be his last year being able to draw a youth tag, and he was fortunate enough to draw one this year. Ron's son drew a mule deer tag, and he drew a U tag.
Not only that, we've got it's for this podcast. What we're trying to do is we're gonna bring you on the journey of bringing new people hunting, which will be really cool. And hopefully we'll get some camera action out there. I have a really hard time setting the gun down to get the camera on. But this year, Cody's the experienced one. Brian's the experienced one too. But this year, going with Cody on his hunt, my son Mitchell, first time hunting Nevada, and his buddy Wyatt from a family that doesn't hunt.
The story on Wyatt is we took him out for Mitchell Ron's son's birthday. We did a little bass fishing trip up to a little lake close to us, and we took kayaks out. Ron and I are big on, we hunt off kayaks a lot. We fish off kayaks. We have a duck boat that we take out on certain places. But
I like kayaks a little bit better.
This kid had never been fishing, never caught a fish.
You've been fishing, you just never caught one.
And he caught the biggest fish of the day. And we all killed it. We were throwing more back than we were keeping for sure. But he got the biggest fish, and that kid, you thought that kid hung the moon. I'm going to tell him where the honey hole is. So you want the honey hole, you can find it. You just got to look hard enough. So
you just got to come find us. We'll take you. Say, I've never caught a fish, and Brian will take you.
Well,
probably
and that's the thing is, Ron and I are pretty open. There's certain places.
There's not many secrets anymore.
There's certain places that Ron and I will keep to ourselves. That are kind of just our little honey hole that, we kind of tend to keep a little bit private, but at the same point, there's other honey holes we're taking everybody and their brother to.
Well, Overton's not a big secret, but that kid Wyatt, when he got on the kayak and started pulling in those bass, man, he was just, you could tell he was hooked for life, and that's one of the things that I enjoy watching that, and hopefully we're doing the muzzleloader hunt September here, and hopefully, that will be a cool thing. We're going to bring those kids on the show and talk to them a little bit before. We'll talk to them a little bit after their best experiences, and get them mic'd up and see what they thought.
And we took. She's kind of like my niece. She was an old neighbor, and she calls me Uncle Brian, and we take pretty good care of her. But we took her on her.
A little bit disabled, can't take them out hunting anymore.
Yeah, and it's Grandma and Grandpa kind of have adopted her, and Grandpa, if he's got to go further than the front seat of his truck, he's not going anywhere. So we took her out on her first ever mule deer hunt last year. She was fortunate enough to draw, and she got a harvest animal, and she's another one of those. She's a kind of an at-risk kid. I mean, she hasn't had the easiest life, but we take her out to somewhere that's an odd environment that's different than everything else, and when she got her animals, you could see that she wasn't super excited necessarily to be out and everything it takes to get them, because Ron and I will hunt from sun up to sundown. And by the time we get back to camp, it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. We're up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go back at it again. I don't think she was so excited about that, but as soon as she dropped that mule deer, I mean, all that went away. And so now she was kind of bummed that she didn't get a draw this year, and she really wants to hunt, and that's the big thing. So getting the kids once they get on an animal, and I think kids with even just a shot on an animal, I think they get excited. Ron's got another girl that he's going to take out antelope hunting this year for her first time.
She works in my office. Never hunted before. She hadn't even shot a gun until she came out with us that one day. And so her name's Allie. I'm hoping we'll see if she'll get on the show with us. But this is from not a hunting family. She enjoys shooting the guns. I said, why don't you get your hunter safety and we'll see if we can't get you on these. And she drew a short in the horns antelope tag. And she has an interesting story. We'll have to bring her in and talk to her. But that'll be another one we'll talk to. And then, we always pick up a few stragglers along the way. I mean, that one guy duck hunted before, remember? Last year. And he'd hunted quite a bit. And I kept on saying, why don't you come in the blind with us? He wasn't a bad shot. He wasn't shooting high. He wasn't being successful. And there's nothing that drives new hunters out of the sport more than not being successful. I mean, if you go out there and you bust your hump and you're not even shooting at a duck because, you're not covered, you don't have the decoys out right, you don't have the motion. I mean, there's so many factors with ducks, and just being able to, we brought him in the blind that one morning, remember that?
Yeah.
And we threw out a small set, there's a couple motions in there.
Which is not in Ron's nature at all.
It was late season. Brian beat me up in the truck on the way to the blind.
But that's the good thing is you kind of get different set of eyes, and maybe we should do it this way. Ron and I work really well together, and the reason we work well together is because neither of our ideas, we don't think the other one's right or wrong or whatever. We bounce the ideas off of each other, and if something's not working, both of us could put our pride away enough to say, hey, let's try it the other way and see how it works. And so Ron and I really do feed off each other, and one of the things that will get you not invited back to a blind with me is if you want to sit there and just pound your chest and prove how great you are and stuff like that. There's not a need for it. We can all work together. We can do it right. Ron and I had an incident last year. We were going to a Friends of NRA grant meeting up in Elko, and we like to stop.
This is one of the negative stories. You can tell, though.
So we stop and we hunt when we're on our way up there. We duck hunt because it's usually right at the end of the season. And
it's a Brian's model. Never waste a good road trip.
Yeah.
There's ducks somewhere.
We ended up getting set up super early because we were up on the road anyways, and get in there about 15, 20 minutes of shooting light. We hear somebody tromping through the water right by us.
On our backs counting the stars, man. The sun was just about to come up again.
So Ron was like, hey, shine your light on some over here. So I did. They kept coming. Ron said something to him.
What would you do if someone shined your light at you, by the way? Just as a hunter's tip.
Oh, yeah, there's somebody over there. Let's go somewhere else. So
spot's taken, right?
So
what did this guy do?
Gentleman wasn't really happy, and he's like, there's nowhere else to hunt. Now we're on a preserve up north, and there was
probably like 100
one
acres?
other, at least 100 acres.
Big old lake. There's only like 2 other people up there with us.
There's like 4 different ponds and a bunch of fields and a full lake with it. I mean, there's plenty of hunting opportunity up there, and there's one other set of hunters up there with us, and then this guy, and this guy's like, well, there's nowhere else to hunt. And I'm thinking to myself, well, there's plenty of room to hunt. So Ron, just being the people we are, Ron's like, well, how many people are with you? And he's like, it's just me and my wife. And Ron's like, we're already got the decoys set out and everything. Why don't you just come and jump in with us?
There's only 2 of us, so 4. That's not too crowded of a blind. That's easy.
We could have done okay with 4 of us in a blind, and
we were going even to Elko anyways. We probably gave him all the ducks.
Even if it wasn't a great of a hunt because he wasn't being concealed or whatever, we would have had better opportunity than him setting up right next to us. So Ron makes the offer to him, just come over and get in our blind, and he basically cussed Ron out and said, I'm out of here, and leaves. So no matter what you do, sometimes it's just
you're gonna have those negative experiences.
You're gonna have a negative, but if you can bring people in and the opportunity is there, I mean, even if you bring somebody in the blind, and Ron and I've had the experience where we'll have somebody in the blind with us. We had somebody in the boat with us one time, and they just wouldn't get off their duck call. And down here in the south, in southern Nevada, with where we are on the flyway and where we are on just ducks migrating to the south, they've already been shot at. They've seen every decoy set up they can.
You know what happens when somebody's making a mistake who gets yelled at for it? Brian.
Yeah.
Brian, get off your duck call. Like, I haven't been on my duck call all morning.
Yeah. And so this guy kept blowing the duck call. We're on the phone with a friend of ours that's hunting just down around the corner from us, and he's on speakerphone, and he's like, yeah, the ducks are just real real call shy, and he goes, I wouldn't do any calling. And as he's saying this, the guy in the boat with us is on his duck call nonstop.
He's playing Beethoven Symphony.
And so that day was no day duck hunting's really truly a horrible day, but as far as production, it wasn't a great day. I think we got 3 or 4 ducks out of that day, and it just wasn't a good day. Now, if he'd been off his duck call, we would have had a better day. But you know what? We went out the next weekend and had a better day. So it's one day. It's one day duck hunting.
Yeah, you're going to lose a little ground. I mean, you're not going to shoot as many ducks, but I mean, I think it was Nate told me. He's my business partner, but he told me, he said there's like 3 stages of hunting. There's one where you're going out, you're just trying to get shots. There's next where you're trying to get limits, and the last one is where you're trying to enjoy the journey and teach. And so sometimes when it comes to teaching them, you don't get your shots and you don't get your limits, but you get your teaching in.
See, I thought the 3 stages of hunting were, you don't have anything, you're really excited, so you buy everything, and then you're broke. I thought those were the 3 stages of hunting.
Well, I guess it might be, but you usually get over the stages. I keep repeating those steps.
But yeah, I think it's. But if we can get those, and the thing is, if you can get the guy that's on his call all the time, or isn't staying concealed, isn't staying tucked in, if we can teach them that that's what's causing it, and we can get them to stay off a call for 20 minutes or tuck into that blind a little better, and you get birds to fly into them, then that sticks in their head for the next time. So Overton, our wildlife management area over here is assigned blinds, and so what we'll see is more experienced, more seasoned duck hunters come into these blinds. We do a draw system. You have to put in for a reservation. You draw your blind. You get first. They do bingo balls, and whoever has ball number 1 gets the first choice of blinds. But what you'll see is guys know who's hunted that area a lot and who's there consistently. So you'll put in for a blind, and you'll go into a blind, and next thing you know, you got 3 people right on side of yours that are going to make your hunt more difficult. So if we can take those people and take them in and teach them, hey, those are too far out, don't shoot at them. You're not shooting a rifle, you're shooting a shotgun, you're going to get 30 yards out of it versus the 200 yards you're trying to hit. If you can get them to stay off a call a little bit more, get them to watch the waterfowl. I mean, your geese and your ducks. I mean, if you're blowing a duck call and they're not turning, you're doing something wrong.
They'll tell you what they want.
So if we can teach those guys and get the ducks, if they're not on their call, and we can get the ducks to turn in and show them that the ducks want to be there, then the next time they go out, maybe they're on their call a little bit less. Maybe they stay concealed a little bit more. If they see that what we're doing is teaching them and it's working, then that makes them a better hunter. And then so when they're in that blind next to us and they draw that blind next to us, they're going to give us more opportunity to harvest birds as well. So it helps everybody.
Yeah, education. Well, I mean, duck hunting's kind of like a team sport, I mean, some people are going to get more points. Ducks are going to dump into the other decoys better because people have better experience or they have the better location. But if you're educating the person next to you, they're going to know what to do next time, and then you're all going to be more successful.
And Ron and I, if we've got a lot of people out with us, if I've got my boy and maybe my boys, we've got somebody else with us, and Ron's got another blind, and he's got some clients from work or friends or employees or something that are with him.
Some random guy found on Facebook.
And we got too many guys for a blind. Ron, or even for an area, Ron and I are notorious for splitting up and trying to push ducks to each other. So if we can get these hunters to think logically and understand why we're doing the things we're doing, it helps everybody. I mean,
hey Brian, question: what do you think is the first? Like, let's say you got a bad hunter, he's shooting high. How far away does he need to be not to affect your hunt?
They're going to affect your hunt pretty much no matter where they're out on our game preserve. So we're pretty limited. What do we have? 30 some blinds, I think, out there, and it's all in a pretty congested area.
I would say they need to be the minimum 3 football fields away for them not to jump the birds with those high shots.
At least, but what happens is even if for us, you can be
maybe a mile away.
We can be a mile away, and if we're shooting at a bird that's coming on the edge of a pond at a mile away, and you're a mile on the other end of that lake.
How far is one end of Wilson to the other? Is that about a mile?
No, that's probably a quarter of a mile maybe.
So a mile, well, maybe half a mile then.
But once those birds flare, that's what people understand is once you take a bad shot and those birds flare and you spook the birds and they find out that area is not safe to be in, they're going to go somewhere else. So,
or even if you've got like a single, like let's say you got the best duck in the world. Let's say you have like a single teal flying around you, or a single like ruddy, or you got something swimming into your decoys, and there's a flock of like 8 up in the air circling, and they're circling, all the bulrushes and the things, and the one teal works and lands into your decoys. Maybe let them sit there for a bit until those other ducks finish working.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you get, especially new hunters. They get excited, so they see birds, they want to shoot birds, and they don't necessarily look what's around them.
I love shooting.
And we actually had Ron and I, and we hunt a lot. I mean, we hunt every single weekend during duck season. We're hunting. I mean, we're going to make some trips this year up to places, and early versus our southern season, we're going to go up north a little bit. And Ron, there were a ton of ducks working. It was kind of later in the day, and we'll tend to get early flights and late flights, and it was late in the day.
You can throw me under the bus. Okay.
I'm going to throw you under the bus. But Ron, there was some ducks working. There were quite a few ducks working, and there was a single that came right in front of us, and Ron took the single. And I don't blame Ron for taking the single. It was right in front of us. It was a good shot.
In my defense, Brian had watched like 4 flocks fly away.
But when he took the single, it pushed every other bird that was working into the decoys out. So
that's true.
Sometimes.
Hey, did I feel bad about that?
He did feel bad about it. Yeah, you did. After that, you go, you know what, you're right. So sometimes letting those birds work and letting that single come into your decoys, people don't think about it. Let that single come into your decoys and let them be a little confidence booster. So those other birds see that bird on the water moving around. It's adding motion to your decoys for one. It's telling them that there's a live bird down there. They just watch fly into that set around all these other what they think are birds. And now they're going to be more likely to come into that set, and you're going to have more opportunity. Instead of harvesting one bird, maybe everybody harvests a bird, or maybe you could get a double or a triple out of it. So, but even as experienced hunters, I think sometimes we get a little bit anxious and we kind of tunnel in on what we got going on. Imagine for a new hunter that's never done it before, that's never been taught. They see those birds coming across, and they don't care that they're 150 yards. They're like, oh, there's birds, I got to shoot at them.
I'm going to try.
And what happens is when they do that, every once in a while we're going to get lucky, and we're going to drop a bird at 100 yards.
Golden BBs.
Drop that bird at 100 yards, and they think, yep, that's the right way to do it. And so they're actually making it more difficult, not only on themselves, but everybody else around them, versus if we can get them and we can get them into a blind with an experienced hunter that knows how to do it and shows them how to get the birds in closer and let those birds work. I think, for me, one of the great things about duck hunting is the challenge of it. And the biggest challenge is actually getting those ducks to work into your decoy set and getting them to lock up on your decoys. And, that's a challenge. And for me, it's more satisfying than if I took, 50 ducks on a pass. I think those.
It's almost like a game, and you won the game.
It is.
You fool them. I got you.
It is, and so you've done everything that they need to do for you to get them in and kind of trick them into where you want to be. You've outsmarted those ducks. Which here, as we get further into the flyways, and even though we're outside of a flyway, as you get further south during the migration, they start shooting at them in Canada. And they shoot at them all the way down. They've got spinners, they've got swimmers, they've got you name it out on those ducks. Those ducks have seen it all.
Our earliest season doesn't start till September, the end of September.
Exactly. And so those ducks, once they've seen it enough times, they've been shot at, enough times coming into these sets, it makes it a lot more difficult for you to get ducks in. So, hence we get ones and twos. Some of the stuff a little bit further up north. We'll get flights in, and Ron and I hunted one day with another friend of ours, and we were hunting cans up in one of the reservoirs up fairly close to us, and they were coming. The cans were dumping in our decoys 20, 30 at a time.
Yeah.
And so we could only take 2 cans.
We all limited out.
I think that was the most frustrating hunt I've ever had because there's tons of birds coming in your decoys, and you're not allowed to shoot at any of them. So.
That was rough.
But it is. It's
Hey, but that guy, he took us out there and showed us how to do those scans. He taught us on those.
he did. He taught us a little bit different
Shout
way
out to Bo.
way to hunt. And actually, we didn't have can decoys at that point, and he said can decoys, and man, they were coming in right on top of those decoys and laying right in the water. So it made Ron decide he needed to go get some can decoys like the next weekend.
Yeah. Shout out to Bo. Bad influence, man.
But and that's the thing is, how do you get mad at somebody for not knowing if you're not willing to be the one to teach them? And we talk about it with people. Ron and I. So
We're not the best hunters.
we're not.
We do the best we can, though. We hustle and we try to learn.
We've learned a lot through the School of Hard Knocks, and we're still learning through the School of Hard Knocks.
I mean, we've sunk a boat, we've tipped kayaks in the ice, we've dunked guns, gone swimming, like
I think it's all
roped
part of
through ice, like couldn't feel all our fingers. Like we've put the time in and we've heard.
Ron and I have hunted.
Duck hunting hurts.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like being miserable, you don't like duck hunting, and that's kind of the thing is. Ron and I were out duck hunting in 17 degrees in the snow one day because
Brian decided to go swimming.
Yeah, and I went in the water, but I think that's part of it. I think part of it is as hunters and outdoorsmen, it's our job to teach people to do what we love, and so for me, I on top of the hunting and stuff, I coach 4-H shooting sports. There was an opportunity through the Friends of NRA Foundation that we've always been able to get money through them to help my shooting sports program. It's not cheap for my kids to shoot and go to state, and we've had some kids qualify for nationals, but this year we didn't have that opportunity because we're through the university system, and they didn't want to fund some grant money, and they didn't want it to be associated with the NRA. So Ron and I actually started another group through our Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada that's a Win-Use Sportsman's program, and the goal of that program long term is going to be not only to bring the kids that would normally kind of get into the hunting world. So in our little town, pretty much everybody hunts, some form or another, whether it's elk, antelope, deer, duck, dove. We have a huge dove opener. We have quail. Most of the people in town hunt. But what Ron and I would like to do with this program is take some of these kids in some of these inner city schools that haven't had the opportunity. I have a friend that teaches in an inner city school, and the house next to their school had a horse, and the kids are like, wow, look at that cow. So these kids have never had this opportunity, and so if we can get some of these different groups into hunting, maybe that one kid that you take out and you teach them the art of duck hunting, or you get them out and they're shooting skeet or however you want to do it, however you want to bring these kids.
Never have.
Give them the opportunities to try something different. Maybe that's the one thing that changes that kid's outlook on life. And
if you're one of those kids that are watching this, or one of these adults that's watching this, and you always have the inkling saying, I've always wanted to do this. You've got us on Instagram, you got us on Facebook. Just reach out to us, and I'll do my best to see if I can make it happen. There's only so many days in the year, and I got to unfortunately feed my family, but I'll definitely, and Brian, if I can't do it, I'll make Brian do it. So just let us know. We want to. I enjoy taking people out. I enjoy showing them the ways, and I think it's therapeutic. And we live in a country that has managed their species. Like, you go around the world and look at even though we live in the middle of the desert, I mean, we have bighorn sheep and ducks. Well, we still have ducks in the middle of the desert, and that comes from someone just managing their species really well. And people in the United States and people in Las Vegas and people in Nevada, those are all your animals. And as long as you get the tickets and you follow the rules, you can harvest we work to preserve.
Nevada's kind of unfortunate. It's unfortunate and fortunate at the same time. As Nevada, I think I think it's Clark County, and maybe is 90% of the land is public land or owned by the government.
Yeah.
So
that's all yours.
There's a ton of public land. You don't have these opportunities in the Texases and Louisianas where
the checkerboards.
The private land is locked up so much of the hunting grounds that they don't have the opportunities. So you hear public land hunting is a bad word in most of the country. Here, public land hunting is still good hunting. Ron and I have a specific area that we like to hunt, and I don't think I've ever been up there where I haven't seen a really good buck up in the area.
What area is that?
No, I'm not going to tell you what area that is. You can find it out. You'll find the big bucks there. But there's always decent bucks up there, and it's anybody can go up to that area and hunt it. That's the great part of it. that where there's trophy bucks in the state of Nevada, it's not some guy's private ranch. It's public hunting lands, a lot of it. So
For the most part, yeah.
you can go up if you want a bighorn. You're not going to a private ranch to get a desert bighorn. You're going to go up to our area, outside of our area, and that's where the desert bighorn population is. So I think we have an opportunity in Nevada to do some pretty great things. We have a lot of organizations. Desert Bighorn Fraternity has been really good with making sure the herd is sustainable.
Did you hear how much they increased their population since they got involved?
No, it's
a skyrocketed. That wildlife group almost hands down turned that whole population.
And that particular club, I mean, so bighorn's one of those species that it's tough to be a desert bighorn sheep. I mean, there's very limited water, there's limited food resources.
I have a hard time just not having AC, man.
Yeah, but the Desert Bighorn Fraternity goes up and builds guzzlers up in the middle of nowhere and brings water in.
They have to get helicoptered in.
And they have to get helicoptered in, and in fact, they actually purchased the helicopter for NDOW to use.
Yeah.
Through some of their programs. I mean, I'll tell you that you want to talk about what's making these public lands run and what's making the populations of wild animals viable. It doesn't matter whether it's a species we're hunting for food. It doesn't matter whether it's a big game species, small game species. They're all going to thrive off of what these conservation clubs do. Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada puts up drinkers. Now, it's not just the deer and the elk on those drinkers. It's the squirrels and every other species of animal that's getting into those drinkers and able to use them. And it makes a healthier environment and an ecosystem. And I'll tell you, the club Ron and I are on the board of Wildlife Habitat Improvement Nevada. What we do every year, we do turkey tag and mule deer tag, and everything we get out of those tags goes back to Nevada Division of Wildlife. And what did we go for on the mule tag this year?
$180,000.
Yeah, $180,000 for a mule tag, and that's one hunter that got that mule tag. Now, the particular hunter that got the mule tag has spent a ton of money in the state of Nevada just on deer tags. I think he's well over $1 million on deer tags. Absolutely. Is what he spent. And so that single person has put over $1 million into wildlife conservation.
That's how much hunters care about their, that's a passion.
And Ron and I donate money to every other state around us because we tend to go fishing and hunting in every other state. So, those hunting licenses, those fees, and those ammunition and rifle and shotgun excise taxes, they all go back to helping improve our hunting environment. And regardless of what you feel about National Rifle Association, I know that there's a lot of people that have some heartburn with them. When you have clubs like the Friends of NRA, which is kind of a fundraising club that supports not only youth shooting sports programs, but they support conservation programs, hunters education programs for the youth. Those programs are all helping to build this environment that allow us to harvest game. And that's, for us, I mean, even if I didn't harvest anything, and if I draw a tag, which I haven't been able to draw a tag in forever.
Done a lot of work not to draw a tag.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work not to draw a tag. But even if you're just getting out in the environment and being able to interact with that environment, and the herd's healthy on these herds, and we're doing everything we can to make the herds healthy. And when we bring somebody into a duck blind or chasing deer with us or into a deer stand during archery season, or anytime you bring them out, fishing is another way. Anytime you bring them out and you get them excited, they're going to want to come out and help put projects out and help create an environment to where they have those resources later on.
Bring their families and their kids out, spend more on hunting, more on the supplies that go into hunting.
A couple of kids we took this morning, the mom actually reached out to Ron and said, I'm glad you're taking my boys out and getting them to work and do this stuff. But these kids, I mean, I've always been really big with my kids in service, but we're starting to get other kids out that want to come out and help with these projects. They want to be involved.
Them, right? You come out, you do the wildlife projects for one reason. Makes the hunting gods happy, and you usually get a deer.
It does. It makes the hunting gods happy. That and donating knives and everything else that you seem to lose when you're hunting.
They mainly like time, though.
Yeah.
That's why I draw more tags than you, because I work harder than you.
And that's the thing, is if you're out, if you're benefiting from from the great outdoors, and you're benefiting from, if you're drawing tags and you're out in Overton duck hunting. Overton's a big one because it's, most of the other management areas we have close to us, it's kind of like opening day. They really manage the hunt, and they limit the amount of guys that come in there and where they can be. Other than that, it's open. It's kind of a free for all.
Country club.
Overton is more like, yeah, it's kind of a country club. Everything's assigned. Everything has, it's all managed throughout the entire process. And so what we'll see is guys are out there and those blinds are full through hunting season. But when it comes time when they need help, and they need help with a service project, or they need help picking millet so we can replant millet, or Ron and I have done a couple other projects over there this year.
We've had an okay turnout, though, but today was a little rough.
From our own group. But what you don't see is the duck hunters are out there week in and week out that are using that resource. They're not coming back and giving back. If you're going to harvest the animals and you're going to use the environment, give back. I mean, donate a weekend, donate a day, donate a couple hours. It doesn't take much.
It's always easier to take one and teach one hunting when it comes to the work.
It is. So we'll take
Everybody says, "Oh, I know how to use."
We'll take anybody that wants to go hunting with us. But when
you come out and do a project, man, you're in.
We sent out emails.
I'll take you to the honey hole
through two different groups for this project today.
Took a few out. It was okay. We our kids came out. We did good work.
We did about 10 guys out out of probably 200 or 300 emails and stuff we sent out. So I mean. It's
hard to get people out during the coronavirus, man.
It is, and we get that. We get people are busy, but you got to make it. It's got to be a priority for everybody. We got to make the environment better. We got to bring more hunters in. Man, it's awesome to see some of the companies bringing, more female product lines on, because that's actually our biggest group of new hunters.
I think we're gonna bring our wives on to talk about hunting at one point here.
Yeah, it'd probably be like, hunting. You mean the season we never see them?
Yeah.
So we've got some pretty awesome wives that just, they let us kind of do our thing, and during hunting season they kind of let us do us and help.
We'll have a whole wife series about how to earn those points.
Yeah, your kitchen credits. Got to get some kitchen credits.
Duck points.
The other thing, Ron and I are we've been trying to do it. We tried to do it last year and it didn't quite work out. If anybody knows of some disabled veterans that would like to go out and go on a controlled duck hunt, we'll take them out to Overton.
Still pulling millet out of my hands.
Get your hunter safety, your hunter license, and Ron and I we can cover everything else.
You know what? If you want to go out, you talk to me. I'll get you all set up. You come to my office. We'll get your hunter safety done. It's very easy. I know it seems daunting to some people, but I'll drag you right through the process if you want to go and you're a veteran.
Yeah, we'll get you out. I mean, Ron and I will take care of them. We've got extra shotguns. We got
everything. You don't have to bring anything.
You just come out and that's part of Ron and I. Ron and I have a passion for the guys that serve our community and serve our nation, that are willing to make that sacrifice. And teachers, pretty much we'll take anybody, but we really want to make a concerted effort into giving those that maybe have never had the opportunity to have the opportunity, that have given so much to us as a nation and as a community.
Yeah.
Ron and I both served in the EMS field for quite a while, and
both of us you're over 5 years too.
Yeah. I spent 11 years working in Vegas on an ambulance. And so we understand it, and we truly appreciate it, and we'd like to give back, and we're looking for some veterans to take out and get them excited.
Come on the podcast and talk about their experiences, and this is what they learned. So
absolutely, and like I said, be good to each other and give each other the opportunity. If you have the ability to give the opportunity,
good to each other.
If you have the opportunity to just give back. Ron and I are both part of a religion that truly teaches that the best thing you can do is give back to somebody else. Even sometimes when it seems like nothing, sometimes it's the hugest thing you can ever do for somebody, just to give back a little bit.
Just be good to each other.
Be good to each other. Take care of each other and look out for each other. You got to look out for each other, and part of that is making sure that they have all the tools in the toolbox they could possibly have. And so when you take somebody out and you get them in there with you, or you come in with us, and it may not, Ron may be sitting in a duck blind with you and We learned absolutely nothing about duck hunting. It's your first ever duck hunt, but I'm sure there's some other piece of knowledge we're going to take from that experience.
Yeah, we've got some cool people out there.
Yeah,
accountants and
that's the cool thing about it. It's
if you have the opportunity to take one or teach one, do it.
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
good deal. If you got a guy at work that said, "Oh, I've never been hunting," and you say, "Well, do you want to?" And he goes, "Yeah," and be like, "Let's go."
and if you need,
sometimes they just need that invite.
and if you need, places and ideas where to take somebody hunting or fishing or something like that, get a hold of us. We'll
message us on Instagram or Facebook.
We'll get you. I mean, we'll get you on. It may not be the best holes sometimes, but we'll get you on fish or ducks or whatever it is. We'll try to get you on what we can.
Call us up. We'll get you set up with the right rig and get you going. But
yeah, absolutely.
It smells like my wife's cooking dinner, man. So you know this guy.
Fat kid's got to eat.
Fat kid's gotta eat, man. Gotta have those pounds for the duck season. But thanks for doing this with us, Brian. We'll get you in here for the next one, and we'll get it going, man.
We'll have a good time, and I hope you guys join us for next time we're on, and hopefully have some new deer hunters up with some deer on the ground.
Or the antelope. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks. We'll get you guys next time.